My family begged me to save their bankrupt hotel. I sold my apartment and worked 8 months until exhaustion. But they made my younger brother, who did nothing, the CEO. Now my hotel is destroying them, and I discovered my brother stole $80,000. I'm 34 years old. I've been working in hospitality since I was 20. And what happened with my family basically destroyed whatever relationship we had. But it also showed me that sometimes the worst betrayals lead you to the best places. I guess I should start at the beginning. When my parents called me like 2 years ago, desperate because the family hotel was about to go bankrupt. I was living in Portland at the time, had a small but nice apartment near downtown, worked as operations manager at a boutique hotel that I loved, and honestly, I was doing okay. You know, I wasn't a millionaire, but I paid my bills and even saved a little each month. My parents' hotel was one of those lodge-style places in a small town, with that rustic mountain aesthetic that was popular in the 90s, but that they'd never updated. My mom called me crying on a Tuesday afternoon, saying the numbers were in the red, that they'd taken out 3 loans they couldn't pay, that they were going to lose the passion, business they'd built over 25 years. And I, like the sentimental idiot I am, said yes, that I'd come back home to help. I sold my apartment, quit my job, a job that had taken me years to get, by the way, and packed my entire life into my 2018 Honda Civic to drive 5 hours back to the town where I grew up, and which I'd sworn I'd never return to. I arrived in March, I think, or maybe late February. I don't remember exactly, but it was freezing cold, and the hotel looked worse than I remembered. The carpets were stained, the paint was peeling, the furniture was the same stuff I'd seen when I was 15, and I don't even want to talk about the reservation system they were still using. Like something from 2005 that required like 3 extra steps to do anything. My parents were there waiting for me in the parking lot, and my mom hugged me like she hadn't seen me in years. It had only been 6 months since Christmas. And my dad just said, "Thanks for coming. We desperately need help." My brother Connor was there too, and this is where things start to get complicated. Connor is 4 years younger than me. He's 30 now, and he's always been the family favorite. I don't know how to explain it without sounding bitter, but ever since we were kids, my parents treated him differently, like the sun rose out of his ass and everything he did was perfect. I'd get good grades and it was like, "Oh, good, Drew," but Connor would get a C and it was a family celebration. I worked at the hotel every summer from age 14, cleaning rooms and carrying luggage, while Connor spent his time playing video games because he was too young or too delicate or whatever. So, anyway, when I arrived, Connor was supposedly helping with the hotel, but basically he only showed up when he wanted to and spent most of his time on his phone. The first 2 months were brutal, literally reviewing every aspect of the business to understand what was failing. Turns out my parents had made terrible decisions, like hiring a consultant who charged them $40,000 to tell them to put new pictures in the lobby, or spending $30,000 on a sound system for the dining room that nobody used. They had debts with 5 different suppliers. The online reviews were mostly 2 stars, and average occupancy was 35%. It was a disaster, basically. I spent the next 8 months working harder than I'd ever worked in my life. I'd wake up at 5 in the morning and go to bed after midnight. I renegotiated contracts with suppliers, got better prices on everything from towels to cleaning products. I hired a local designer who helped me renovate the rooms on a tight budget. Like we bought paint on sale and secondhand but good furniture. And they turned out amazing. Modern, but keeping that lodge style people liked. I updated the entire reservation system to a modern platform that integrated with Booking and Expedia, trained the staff in customer service, and started a social media strategy that worked incredibly well, because it turns out people did want to come to a cozy hotel in the mountains if they knew it existed. And it worked. It worked. By month 7, occupancy was at 75%. Reviews went up to an average of 4.3 stars, and for the first time in 3 years, the hotel was generating real profits. We paid off 2 of the 5 loans completely. Suppliers were happy. Employees were motivated. I was exhausted but proud, thinking I'd saved the family business, and that finally my parents were going to recognize everything I'd done. Connor, during all this time, kept showing up occasionally, taking photos for Instagram in the renovated areas, talking to guests for 5 minutes like he was the owner, but not doing anything real. I tried not to resent it. Honestly, I thought, well, maybe he just doesn't have the same interest in the business as I do. And that's okay. Everyone has their talents. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. The signs were all there. My parents started having closed-door meetings with Connor, which they never did with me. My mom started saying things like, Connor has very innovative ideas, or Connor has been reading about modern hospitality. My dad would comment things like, we need to think about business succession, about who's going to lead this in the future. And I was like, yeah, sure, makes sense. I'm basically leading it already, but I didn't say anything because I assumed it was obvious. In November, like 8 months after I arrived, my parents called a meeting with all the staff. There were like 15 of us total, including Patricia, the head of housekeeping, who'd been working there for 15 years and who'd been like a second mom to me when I was a kid. Sarah, the receptionist I'd hired, who was amazing with guests, and the whole team that had worked with me those months to lift the place up. My dad stood up front and said, we have an important announcement to make about the hotel's future. I was sitting there, thinking, okay, maybe they're going to make me a partner, or official general manager with a formal contract, something that recognizes what I did. And then my dad says, after much consideration, we've decided that Connor will be the hotel's new CEO. Connor was standing there smiling like he'd won the lottery, and I literally froze. Can you believe it? 8 months working to exhaustion, investing my own money on some things because there was no budget, living in the smallest room in the hotel because I had nowhere else to stay after selling my apartment. And they give the position to my brother, who did absolutely nothing. My mom added something like, Drew has done a wonderful job stabilizing operations, and we hope he'll continue as operations manager under Connor's leadership. The words kept bouncing around in my head. The whole team was looking at me, some with confused faces, others clearly uncomfortable. Patricia shook her head like saying, this is crazy. I just stood up, said congratulations, Connor, and left the room. I couldn't stay there. I felt like my chest was going to explode. That night, I tried to talk to my parents. I asked them directly, why Connor? What did he do to deserve this? And my dad told me, Connor is the youngest, he needs a chance to prove what he can do. And besides, you already have experience, you can get a job anywhere. My mom added that Connor had expressed a lot of interest in leading the hotel, that he had a fresh vision, and that they felt it was time to give him responsibilities. I tried to explain to them that it's not about age or giving opportunities. It's about who saved the business, who has the skills, who demonstrated commitment. But it was like talking to a wall. They'd already decided, and nothing I said was going to change that. I stayed 2 more weeks, basically because I had nowhere to go. Connor started as CEO, and the first decisions he made were a disaster. He decided that the Enita, complimentary breakfast I'd implemented, which cost like $3 per guest, but significantly increased reviews, was too expensive and eliminated it. He changed the staff uniform to something he thought looked more modern, but actually looked ridiculous and cheap. And worst of all, he fired Patricia, the woman who dedicated 15 years of her life to the hotel, because according to him, they needed younger and more dynamic staff. When Patricia told me she was crying, saying she didn't know what she was going to do, that at 58 years old, who was going to hire her, that was the moment I decided I couldn't stay there anymore. But I wasn't just going to leave to look for work at another hotel in another city. No, I came up with something better. Or maybe it was crazy. I'm still not sure. Turns out there was an old building in town, like 15 minutes from my parents' hotel, that had been a motel in the 80s but had been closed for like 10 years. It was ugly. I'm not gonna lie, the windows were broken, the parking lot full of weeds, but the structure was solid and the price was ridiculously low because nobody wanted to invest in renovating it. I went to see it one day when I was supposedly on my break, and as I walked through the empty hallways full of dust, I thought, I could do something with this. The idea was crazy. I literally had no money because I'd spent my savings helping with the family hotel. I had no job, and technically, I didn't even have anywhere to live permanently. But I had 8 months of recent experience proving to myself that I knew how to lift up a bankrupt hotel. I had contacts with suppliers and designers, and I had something my parents and Connor didn't have: real knowledge of the business and the desire to prove to them they'd been wrong. I called a friend who worked at a bank, showed him a business plan I put together in 3 days, basically without sleeping, and surprisingly, I got a loan. It wasn't easy. I had to present projections, put up the Honda as partial collateral, and basically bet my entire future. But I got it. I bought the building in December, officially resigned from the family hotel in January, and started the renovation. The first months I worked alone. Well, I hired some construction workers for the heavy stuff, but I was there every day, painting, sanding, installing things. Patricia found out what I was doing and came to see me one afternoon. She told me, "Drew, if you need someone when you open, I want to work with you." I gave her a hug and told her she was going to be my head of housekeeping, with better pay than she had before. Sarah, the receptionist, also quit the family hotel like 2 months after Connor started, saying the atmosphere had become unbearable, and she joined my project. I called the hotel Elevate because the idea was to elevate the hospitality standard of the town, and also because I felt like I was elevating myself above the whole family situation. We opened in June. Exactly 1 year after I arrived in town to save my parents' business. The rooms were modern but cozy, with that minimalist aesthetic that's trendy but still feels warm. I had 24 rooms, compared to the 35 at the family hotel, but mine were better equipped, better decorated, and the service was personal because everyone on my team was there because they wanted to be, not because it was an obligatory family job. The response was incredible. Reservations started coming in before we officially opened because word spread around town. People knew the story, like everyone in a small town knows everything, and there was a lot of sympathy toward me and a lot of resentment toward how my parents had treated me. Online reviews were 5 stars from the beginning. Guests loved the place, the service, everything. Meanwhile, the family hotel started to decline. Connor kept making terrible decisions. Like he tried to do a social media promotion that went wrong and ended up with negative comments. He raised prices without improving services and basically undid a lot of the work I'd done. Occupancy started dropping again. The employees who stayed were demotivated. Sarah would tell me things because she still kept in touch with some of those who were still there, and it was like watching a slow-motion accident. My parents didn't talk to me for months. Zero contact. They didn't even call me when Elevate opened, even though the whole town was talking about it. My mom blocked me on Facebook, which was like, "Okay, Mom," very mature. Connor was apparently saying around town that I'd stolen ideas and employees from him, which is hilarious considering he stole the position I deserved. Fast forward to, like 4 months ago, my dad calls me. First time in almost a year I hear directly from him. He tells me, "Drew, we need to talk. Can you come to the hotel?" And honestly, I don't know why I went. I guess a part of me still had hope they were going to apologize or something. I arrive and they're both there, my mom and dad, and they look tired, older than I remembered. My mom starts crying immediately and says, "The hotel is in trouble again. Connor can't handle it. Debts are coming back. We need your help." The audacity, you know? The absolute audacity of asking me for help after everything. My dad says, "We know we made a mistake. Connor wasn't ready for this. You're the one with experience." And I just laughed, like a bitter laugh, and told them, "It's not my problem anymore. You made your decision. Now live with it." My mom tried to play the family card, saying this is a family business, we need to stick together. And I responded, "If it were really about family, you would have given me the opportunity I deserved." I was about to leave when my dad told me something that made me stop. He said, "Connor has been doing weird things with the finances. We don't understand what, but there's money that doesn't add up." That caught my attention. Because if there's something that bothers me, it's irresponsible money management, especially in a business. I asked them what kind of weird things, and my dad showed me some account statements where there were payments to suppliers he didn't recognize, amounts that seemed high for basic services. I didn't promise them anything, but I told them I was going to review it. I don't know why, honestly. Maybe morbid curiosity, maybe a part of me that still cared about the business where I grew up. I don't know. I spent the next 2 weeks reviewing every invoice, every payment, every transaction from the last 6 months, and what I found was worse than I thought. Connor had been creating fake invoices. There were suppliers that didn't exist, services that were never provided, payments that went to accounts. I traced back to Connor. He was basically stealing from the hotel. I don't know exactly how much, but it was easily more than $80,000 in 8 months. There were also large cash withdrawals that he recorded as operational expenses, but that, I found out later, he was using to pay casino debts. Yes, casino. Because apparently my perfect little brother had a gambling problem nobody knew about. I confronted my parents with all the evidence. I printed everything, put the documents on the table in front of them, and told them, "Your perfect son has been stealing from you." My mom couldn't believe it at first, kept saying there had to be an explanation, but the numbers didn't lie. My dad just stayed quiet looking at the papers, I think in shock. I told them they had 2 options: report him to the authorities or confront him and fire him immediately. My mom begged me not to involve the police, that he was their son, that they could handle it as a family. And I told them, "He's not my family anymore. Do what you want, but if you don't report him, I will. This isn't just bad business management, it's fraud, it's theft." I don't know what conversation they had with Connor, but like 3 days later, my dad called me and told me they'd reviewed everything with an accountant and were going to file a formal complaint. Turns out when they confronted Connor, he tried to deny everything at first, but the evidence was irrefutable. They also found he had an offshore account where he was moving the money, which made everything even more serious. The investigation is still in process. Like the legal system is slow, but Connor no longer works at the hotel, obviously, and has restrictions while everything gets resolved. The family hotel had to freeze accounts temporarily while investigators reviewed everything, which basically left them without working capital. My parents had to sell the land behind the hotel to cover some immediate debts, and now they're trying to operate with a minimal team and emergency loans. I didn't lift a finger to help them. I know it sounds cruel, and maybe it is, but there came a point where I had to set boundaries. They've contacted me like 5 more times asking me to come back, now offering me the CEO position, even offering me a stake in the business, and each time I tell them no. I have my own hotel, my own team, my own success, and I don't need validation from them. Elevate is doing incredibly well. We just finished our best month since we opened, with 92% occupancy. I'm considering buying the property next door to expand, add maybe 12 more rooms and a small restaurant. Patricia is happy, Sarah was promoted to operations manager, and we have a work environment that's exactly what I always wanted to create. I see my parents occasionally in town. It's small. You can't avoid it completely. The conversations are brief, awkward. My mom still cries every time she sees me, which makes me feel guilty for a second until I remember everything that happened. My dad basically can't look me in the eye. Connor, I haven't seen him and don't want to. Honestly, I don't know what I'd say to him if we ran into each other. Did I do right in not helping them when they asked me? I don't know. I still ask myself that sometimes, especially at 3 in the morning when I can't sleep. But what I do know is that I proved something important to them and to myself, that I didn't need their approval to be successful, that experience and hard work count more than family favoritism, and that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all, but simply making your own life better without them. Patricia told me recently, while we were cleaning up after a big event we had at the hotel, that she never doubted me. She said that from the first day I arrived at the family hotel, she knew I had something special, a combination of technical knowledge and genuine concern for people that's rare to find, and that she was glad I was finally in a place where that was valued. That meant more to me than any apology my parents could give. I guess the lesson, if there is one, is that sometimes the people who are supposed to support you are the first to disappoint you, and that's okay. You don't need your family to believe in you if you believe in yourself, and that happy endings aren't always about reconciliation and forgiveness. Sometimes they're simply about building something of your own and being at peace with your decisions. The family hotel is probably going to close eventually. The numbers aren't improving. The reputation is damaged, and without capital to invest in necessary improvements, I don't see how they can compete, especially now that Elevate has established a new standard in town. Part of me feels sadness about that. 25 years of family history ending like this, but a bigger part of me just shrugs. They chose this path when they decided the last name mattered more than competence. Yesterday, I received an email from a regional hotel chain interested in franchising the Elevate concept for other small towns. I don't know if I'm going to accept. It's tempting, but I also like keeping things small and personal for now. What I do know is that none of these opportunities would exist if I'd stayed at the family hotel, settling for being the operations manager under Connor's leadership, or as I like to call him now, Connor the Embezzler. My parents are going to have to live with their decisions just like I had to live with mine. The difference is that my decisions led me to a better place, and theirs led them to emotional and financial bankruptcy. Their suffering doesn't bring me joy, but I'm also not going to pretend there isn't some satisfaction in knowing I was right all along. I deserved that position. I deserved that recognition. And although I didn't get it from them, I got it from other people who really matter.